Nashville, raising Nashville, raising Nashville, raising Nashville.
Welcome to this week's episode of Raising Nashville. I'm Bucky.
Juicebox.
Old boy.
And as parents, we often have to make decisions for our children. This could be ranging from anything to, what am I going to feed my child to what am I going to dress them in? And there's some serious decisions and there's some not so serious decisions. So this week, we want to talk about a real special kind of parent. Before, we get into it, I just want to throw it to this week. It's Juicebox's topic. So we're going to let him educate us on a special decision that needs to be made for your children.
Absolutely.
So this week we're talking about vaccinations, about how there's been such a pushback, what seems like really recently, but actually has gone on for a longer amount of time. So I just wanted to look into that a little bit because I don't know about you guys, we did vaccinate our kid. I looked into some stuff initially, like before we had him vaccinated, just, because you hear so much crazy stuff and there's so much scientific evidence that these vaccines don't cause autism or don't cause other problems at this point.
Right.
Sure.
So it was just like kind of a no-brainer, and we talked to our doctor, and they're like, obviously, we want you to vaccinate.
Both of my children are also vaccinated.
I am myself vaccinated and my child is too.
Oh, okay. I think all three of us are been vaccinated.
Well, I don't know. I have questions about you.
So for our listenership out there, if you have not figured this out yet, we are into a parenting topic this week, and we want to really get into discussion versus, whether you should or elect not to vaccinate your children. So whether you're, a normal person or you're a real kind of special person.
See, I want to jump in there. I'm not trying to tell people either way. I'm just kind of giving I just want to talk a little bit about the history of anti-vaccination thought and, why it's coming back.
But I think you'll find out throughout the episode there are some stories and some things that we've researched that kind of tell you probably should choose one over the other.
When the CDC is strongly telling you to vaccinate your kids and yourself because it's a danger to society as a whole, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know how we've been coming up with names for every episode.
Yeah.
So
it started with Old Boy, who created a title and then has hated everyone that I've created.
No, you've had some good ones.
So anyway, you guys know I'm like a huge Bon Jovi fan.
Oh God, I did not know that.
So I'm calling this one "Shot in the Thigh." It's not too late. Stop giving vaccines a bad name.
All right. Well,
that's probably the longest introduction title to an episode.
Yeah.
I like the subtitle. It's very good.
Hey, whatever.
Before we get into this parenting topic, can we talk a little bit more about Bon Jovi?
We can talk about that off mic.
Okay.
So anyway, I wanted to jump in just with like a quick history. There was a guy out there named Edward Jenner who invented the smallpox vaccine, and this is back, right around the turn of late 1700s, early 1800s. He did some experimenting to create a vaccine from using cowpox, infecting the host or whatever, so that they would get a mild fever, a very mild case of this smallpox, and then they would be immune to it after that. It was a pretty big breakthrough, but there was a lot of pushback against it just from the get-go. There was people that were against it because of religious reasons. They didn't believe in using something from an animal to treat a disease. There was other people that were just, more about personal liberty, like you can't make me take this. And that actually, in 1853, there was something called the Vaccination Act passed, which made it mandatory to vaccinate infants up to 3 months old. And then a few years later, they extended it to up to 14 years old. And this caused a huge pushback against vaccines because people didn't want to be told that they had to get this because it was against a lot of people's religious beliefs, like I said, and other people just didn't, personal liberties, they didn't want to do it.
So they jumped from you have to get your kid vaccinated up to 3 months to 14 years.
Yeah.
That that seems like a pretty big jump. And I want to say that, people were against vaccinations from the beginning, but for religious reasons and, other things that you just mentioned. But one thing I didn't hear mentioned was it's the fact that you're putting a disease in a body when you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mention that, but that was another thing. People just didn't trust the science. It was so new at this point, and they didn't trust the science. They also thought it was just not sanitary. They didn't believe that it was just very it was very new, so no one really knew what to expect.
It's a crazy idea. I mean, to me, it would be a crazy idea if I lived back then and somebody was like, hey, I'm going to inject this disease in your body so you don't get the disease. I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. On our gene editing episode, we were talking about vaccines on there and like if there was initial pushback on it. And this, reading into this is like, yes, there was a very big pushback against it. Yeah. So after it became a law, all these just different groups started forming.
And what year was this?
That was 1857
okay, so
or 1867. I'm sorry,
we're
was
a while
when it was
back at this point.
Yeah, but they were even like fining people for not getting their kids vaccinated. So that was, that even led to more people not getting vaccinated because there was such a pushback against it. So I'm just going to jump forward a little bit to the 1970s. There was a
little bit. You just jumped forward 120 years.
I mean, honestly, when I was researching this thing, I mean, there is so much info, and there's like, I mean, just case after case after case of people pushing back against vaccines.
Right. Sure.
So anyway, just in the 70s is kind of when this more modern anti-vax movement came around. There was a report in England that said that 36 children suffered from neurological conditions after getting the DTP, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, which I guess pertussis is that whooping cough?
That's whooping cough. Okay.
Yeah. So they said there was 36 cases of kids, having some kind of they just call it neurological conditions, but I'm guessing that meant autism. It just wasn't diagnosed the same way then.
But out of the whole country, it's a pretty good success rate, I'd say.
Yeah, if it was the vaccine that caused that, that's still that's still a small number, but it's still not really that acceptable. So anyway, TV and newspapers, probably tabloids, like seized on this and just like started blowing it out of proportion. So more and more people are getting on board, and it's like kind of just starting to believe this theory that doesn't really have any scientific proof to it.
And that was in the 70s. Imagine if it was today's time and it was just like pop-up ads all over your, web.
It's still pretty prevalent today, that the attitude towards it.
Well, sure. But if you had 36 cases of something like that happening, it would be all over Yahoo and people would just like theorize
Is that your
into
news source?
That is my news source.
Okay, I'm just about it.
But anyway, so a lot of these movements were started in England or Europe somewhere, it seems like. That's where they're coming from. That's where these doctors are like, publishing these reports. So, there was a couple more. There was like a documentary called, there was a book called A Shot in the Dark that was like told about the risks of vaccines. That came out in 1991. There was a documentary in 1982, like talking about this, the dangers of the diphtheria, the DDP vaccine. These stories are just being picked up and then just like ran, like the media just picks it up and it's like, they want to show something scary. So they're like, oh, guess what? This vaccine will kill you. Anyway.
Well, sure. I think they would pick up anything and run with it just to have some kind of a negative news story.
Then it gets in like a celebrity's hands, and then it's boom, people are really buying into it. So you're saying that this infestation of anti-vaccination thought originates in England or Europe?
It seems to be like that's it for some reason. I don't know why, but that's kind of what it seemed like.
That's where the outbreak's going to happen.
And it's not just England. I think it's just from England, maybe England to America. Like that's, there's tons of other countries that don't believe in vaccine,
sure,
that have their own vaccine issues.
I can see the beginning of this post-apocalyptic movie that you're writing in your head right now. That's where the outbreak started.
That's where it started, man. Yeah, it's over there in England.
Yeah, wasn't that the theme of 28 Days Later?
Yeah. This is it. It's all coming true. I told you guys.
Did you work on that film too?
I'll fucking stab you.
Okay. So anyway, so let's jump to 1998. There's a British doctor named Andrew Wakefield who recommends further investigation of a possible relationship between bowel disease, autism, and the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. A few years later, Wakefield alleged the vaccine is not properly tested before being put in use. The media seizes on these stories, igniting public fear and confusion over the safety of the vaccine. A medical journal, The Lancet, that published his article or his, findings or whatever, stated in 2004 that it shouldn't have published the paper because all this stuff came out that he had a total conflict of interest because he was being paid by people that were trying to sue the people with the vaccine. So, he had a total conflict of interest of why he wrote this paper. And this guy ends up being disbarred and he's no longer allowed to practice medicine. But his theories are why they think these vaccines cause these issues.
So Wakefield is the catalyst for this most recent, more or less,
one of them. Yeah, one of them. Because in 1998, he's saying this. But the crazy thing is, in 2000, measles was declared dead in the United States.
Eradicated,
because there was no new cases that were... There was reported cases, but it was somebody that had traveled from outside of the country into the United States. So there was no communication of measles from one person to another that hadn't traveled. Yeah, domestically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now measles is back.
Yeah.
Right, big way.
Yeah, so in 2013, there was a really big breakout.
Was it North Carolina? Or?
Well, it was in 16 states. So in 2013, there was 159 cases in 16 states. Then the next year, there was 668 cases in 27 states.
So that'll raise some eyebrows.
So then it dropped off in 2015, and then I don't have the numbers between there, but this year there's already been 500 people with measles so far, and we're only in May?
Yeah.
So I had no idea any of this was going on, and now I'm putting two and two together because my mom texted me the other day, and she said, I had a dream that Levon, who's my youngest, had measles. Will you go in his room and check his back for me? And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that, crazy mom. It's because you had a dream. And then I didn't even think measles was a thing. And then you guys texted me and said this was going to be the topic of the episode this week. And I was like, this is all coming full circle. This is weird.
You need to check his back.
There's a reason why she wanted you to check him out, because so many kids are getting it.
It's a big thing. Yeah, there's a recent outbreak in California, but it's mostly among groups that don't believe in vaccination. And so when there's a group that doesn't vaccinate, and that's how ultimately it spreads amongst them first, and then it spreads beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger problem with measles is that people, because cases have been down, like you said, back in 2000, it was more or less declared eradicated. People feel like they don't need to get vaccinated. I'm like, well, shit, measles is dead. Don't shoot me. So that further spreads the problem because people are not getting vaccinated. So then it can spread more generously, I guess.
But this is the reason that you get vaccinated.
Yeah. Precisely.
So these anti-vaxxers, is that what they're called? Anti-vaxxers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So these anti-vaccine groups
right.
are not getting their children vaccinated.
Right.
They're coming up with the disease.
Right.
And they're spreading it to all of us.
Right.
The thing is, the way it is right now, if you've had the measles vaccine, you have... Okay, so let me jump back a little bit. We all got the measles vaccine probably maybe once or twice, because before, I think 1989, I had it in my notes here. I can't find it exactly right now. But before 1989, you only had to get it once. And then after 1989, they recommended that everybody get 2 doses of it, and that makes it like 97% effective.
Immune. Yeah.
And if you only get it once, it's like 90% effective. Even if you're in that 3% where you still contract it after you've had the vaccine, will supposedly be a much milder case. It won't be as extreme.
It's treatable.
It's treatable. It won't be as bad as if you didn't have it.
The problem with these new groups getting it is that even if, there's a chance you can get it, but even if you are vaccinated, if it spreads, right?
Yeah.
And that's because there can be new strains of it. If everybody's not doing their part, they call it it's a herd mentality, not herd mentality, but it's a herd immunity. So if this group is not doing their part, it can potentially infect a lot more people.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know if there has been maybe there has been. I'm not sure if there's been evidence so far that like the measles virus is mutating or anything as of yet. I think it's just people that haven't been vaccinated that are now getting it. But
Gotcha.
do you guys remember, like, we were at WrestleMania last year in New Orleans? There was somebody with a case of measles there that traveled in from like Europe or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of people in that room probably were not vaccinated as children.
Oh God! Well, that's a
I mean,
good
yeah,
point.
maybe. I never did follow. I wonder. I need to look back into that and see if there was like some sort of outbreak from that.
That's funny though. I forgot all about that till you mentioned that.
That's
Yeah.
a big scare. I mean, we were pretty high up, so hopefully that person, couldn't get all the way up there.
Right.
I mean, we were
Well,
like 3 rows from the
Matt,
top.
Maybe it was a wrestler.
It
Well,
was not a wrestler.
the scary thing is like the initial symptoms of measles are just like very similar to the flu. When it's first coming on, maybe you just think you have like a mild flu or like a bad cold coming on or something, and then it just gets worse and worse. So that's a scary thing too. It's like you don't even know. You could be, if you're not vaccinated, you could just be transmitting the shit before you even realize that.
So it's kind of like getting bit by a walker in The Walking Dead. Like immediately you don't see any change, but over time.
So there's
that
a
shit-
gaping bite hole in my side.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, just
I guess
the entire...
it would be like that if you didn't know that you got bit by the walker.
Can you die from the measles?
You can. It doesn't happen that often. It mostly happens in people that have a weakened immune system for some other reason.
Sure.
If they're already sick, I think people can get pneumonia related to measles, and so that can be really bad.
I got a question. What are the mumps? I don't know.
The measles
Do you
and the
know?
mumps. I don't. I think they're like, little things that grow on your body in clusters.
like pox.
Yeah, kind of like shingles or pox.
I
Mumps. It's a mump.
I always felt like the mumps in my mind. I felt like the mumps made your cheeks puffy.
Is that
I
something
feel-
you were told as a kid?
I don't know. I made it
no,
up.
I think you're right about that. Like parts of your you have parts that swell up and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll Google this.
I
later.
should have looked more into that.
No,
I was
no,
just
it just
concentrating
hit
more
me.
on measles since that's like the main thing.
That's right.
But the
kicking
mumps
around
always
right
go along with the measles. Kind of like Sonic and Tails,
I think. Do you think the mumps?
Simon and Garfunkel, the measles and the mumps.
The measles and the mumps. It's like a
Sounds like a band,
I was
like a
gonna say, that's what- yeah.
terrible punk band.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking. The mumps.
So
Maybe we should start one.
I'm itching to get a mohawk.
So anyway, there's tons of scientific evidence out there now that says that these vaccines don't cause autism. Like they never did. Whatever is causing autism, it's not these vaccines. And I was talking to my mom about this earlier today, and my mom was a special education teacher for like her whole career. And she said she thinks one of the things is like when kids are diagnosed with autism, it's generally like around 14 months, and like you get like maybe the third round of vaccines like around that. It's like the
same
time kind of corresponds that maybe people are getting confused from that.
Sure.
So
Jump into conclusions.
and another thing that people there's a few other like arguments about it. People like think that kids get too many vaccines at once, because I know when we took our kid to the doctor to get his first or second round of vaccines, it's like they give them 4 shots or something like that. And it does seem like it's really intense, but they also talk about like there's been studies that, people would say shooting this many like diseases, even if it's a mild version of it, into a baby is going to overwhelm their immune system. But they talk about how like a bad inner ear infection could actually be worse for your kid than like these vaccines are.
Sure.
We split the vaccinations up with the 2-year-old because I almost lost it on the doctor when she did bring in the 4 needles, and she got through 2 of them and he was just going hysterical. And I was like, look, this ain't happening today. Like, we'll come back, but you're not doing 2 more of these. I think my wife said this morning that I'm, I guess, overprotective of my youngest son.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a little sheltering.
Yeah. Is it sheltering, or is it, I feel like this doctor is torturing my child? It's an in the moment thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you go back for the second round?
What I want to talk about.
Am I at risk?
No. Yes, we went back to the second round.
no, you are at risk.
So let's talk about The reasons why people don't get their children vaccinated. I mean, there are a million reasons why people do it. You've been told that over time. It's a proven science. Millions of people are raised and they don't have these diseases because we got vaccinated, right? So let's talk about the reasons why people don't get their kids vaccinated, so our listenership out there will have a good idea of the other side. Because I think these people, in some form or fashion, are crazy people.
Misguided, seriously.
Yeah, I know religion's one of them for sure.
I think religion is one of the biggest ones.
So it's no longer like we don't believe in this science type thing. You're injecting diseases in our body. This isn't the beginning of it. This isn't, when it was kind of a question. Now it's not a question because it's proven for over 150 years.
Right. I'm interested in the religious aspect of it. I don't quite get it. I don't know what the argument is.
I'm not really sure what it is either. It's just something about for a lot of people, it's something about putting that substance in your body. I think like some sort of.
And that's from the religion.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's just against whatever their personal beliefs are of how you treat your body or something like that. Like I wish I would have pulled a little bit more info on that. I did not pull any specifics, but that is
it's good to speculate from time to time because I'm just trying to figure out.
We're great at that.
Yeah. Like now my thought process turns to, well, if I'm like cementing religion in stone, right? I'm creating this religion. What makes the cut and what doesn't make the cut? There's some bigger things out there. Obviously, thou shalt not kill or steal or sleep with your neighbor's wife or whatever. But then at what
just
point,
your neighbor,
just your neighbor's wife. That's it.
Cindy.
So, at what point does not vaccinating your children make the cut into your religion? And then what else is there? That's why I stay away from religion. It's very confusing.
Right. But also, I think you have to use your own brain. You have to think for yourself for certain things.
Well, sure.
You have to be responsible for yourself. I get religion. I was
going to say, religion, cool. But is there one thing that's like just your belief and views? Like, I could see for some reason when I picture somebody that's not vaccinating their children, I picture somebody with dreadlocks that doesn't wear shoes.
There's a lot of that too. There's a lot of that too.
Bucky in college?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of people that are just they don't want
any.
They don't want the government dictating that they have to take this.
See,
they don't know what's in it. They don't know where it's come from, where it came from, I guess. It's just one of those things where it's like people they know so little that they don't know how much they don't know or so,
it's like a lot of Americans.
Yeah, it's like one of those traps. It's like your own stupidity makes you think that you're smarter because you don't know enough to realize that you don't know shit.
It's like flat earthers.
Now hold up.
No.
They're just not. I'm clearly pro-vaccination, but the only thing I can identify with the anti-vaccination is people not being told what to do when it's compulsory, when it's mandatory vaccination. When people are like, "Well, you have to get vaccinated," I'm immediately, if somebody tells me what to do, I'm immediately pushed back.
Well, that's your personality.
That's my personality.
Well, no, that is a big part of it too, and
I get that. I get that.
But they're not telling you anymore. It's not like this is like some kind of Hitler regime where they're like, you're going to come to this factory and we're going to inject this and you're going to send them off down the line.
They have made vaccinations mandatory in New York City because there's such a huge outbreak in it's somewhere in Brooklyn. I don't know. And it's like people that are like, it's like the people that are very fundamental Jewish. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Is
Orthodox.
Yeah.
They wear the hats and the curlies.
Yeah. So they're very against it, and there's like a huge outbreak in their community. So now that that's going on, New York City is like, okay, people have to be vaccinated, or you're gonna have to pay this fine. So it's gonna come back around. Like even more people are gonna get mad about these mandatory vaccinations, and it's gonna cause more people to jump off board with getting vaccinations.
What I think about is the children and the fact that they didn't have a choice. What if they grew up and they're like, "What? I wanted to be vaccinated." That's a thought. Here's another thought. Would you, if you knew that somebody, one of your friends or if you knew that somebody that you were about to go hang out with was not vaccinated, would that change your mind on hanging out with them? And then, to double on that, would you allow your children to hang out with other children that aren't vaccinated? Is there something in the back of your head that's just like, this is, it's not, it's not like AIDS. Like, back in the day when people were getting AIDS and you didn't want to touch them, even though it was proven that that is not going to how you contract AIDS. Like anti-vaccinations.
Let's just say it's the flu. All right. So
Sorry, I went too big with it.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going. But let's say, all right, my kid's going to hang out with kids that are not vaccinated and there's been a flu outbreak. Sorry, kid, you're staying home tonight.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of your responsibility as a parent to try to avoid having your kid get sick.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we obviously all three of us go through daycare. I mean, they'll close daycare down if there's, an outbreak, no matter if every kid in the school's been vaccinated or not. They're just being safe.
We have to provide records for school and daycare, which I love. I'm like, all right, yes. So that means everybody else, they're not letting kids in that don't have their vaccination. So we're keeping our herd vaccinated and prepared. So we're not mixing with other groups that don't. So I mean, part of me is kind of like, yeah.
Are there like anti-vaccination daycares?
Probably is probably a religious,
like a network you can get on.
I mean, I think that's how like measles have spread throughout these communities, like in New York and like you said California. I feel like there was one in like Washington State or Oregon or something like that.
North Carolina too. Yeah.
But if you're one of these groups, at what point do you say, okay, so there's a lot of kids in this community getting measles. Maybe we should rethink how we're approaching things?
I'm sure, because they probably have to take their kid to the doctor, and the doctor's probably like, "You did what?
But
you didn't vaccinate your kid?"
But if you're an anti-vaxxer, what are your thoughts on doctors? Like, is it
don't
holistic
have them.
stuff?
No, you have an exorcism.
So okay, I want to touch on that real quick because there was the story that came out, maybe it was like last year, about the family whose kid, he had like a head injury, somehow had like split his head open somehow, and they stitched it up themselves like at their house or whatever. And when they stitched it up, he got tetanus because they didn't use a clean needle, and because he had never been vaccinated for it. Like they didn't vaccinate.
Who didn't use a clean needle?
The parents.
Oh yeah, they were stitching it up. I wonder if they had any experience in doing that.
I mean, not enough to clean the needle properly, I guess. But
that's the first thing.
So anyway, this kid gets tetanus, and then he has to be admitted to the hospital, and he's in there for, man, I can't remember how, it was a couple months maybe. Like it was like really serious.
Yeah.
And, the hospital bills ended up totaling like $800,000 or something insane that could have been avoided if they would have vaccinated their kid. So anyway, he miraculously gets over this, gets out of the hospital, and then they're still like, no, we're not vaccinating our kid. And it's like, are you freaking like...
The movement towards it, I think one is miseducation, mistrust, misguided trusts.
There's such an echo chamber now. It's like with everything. It's like with politics or anything. People are only listening to the same people that have the same opinion as them. So It's just like they're just constantly bouncing this bullshit back and forth off of each other and just totally believing it more and more and more. And I think that's the problem. Like people aren't trying to educate themselves or do any type of research outside of just, their niche news source, whatever that may be.
I think at some point we should do a conspiracies podcast episode and kind of include this into it, because I think I'd want to go deeper into the conspiracy.
The conspiracy of what?
I don't know. I just assume that all of this is a brainchild of someone at some point. And then, like I said, it snowballs and people throw in these new ideas and these new things that aren't proven, or they're just... Yeah. Crazy wild hair ideas.
I don't know if there's a conspiracy behind it, probably, but I don't know what the end game would be either. I mean, I don't. So
to get enough people to not get vaccines and then release some sort of
super bug,
like super measles or something.
This whole episode we've been talking, all I've been thinking about is crazy movies that this could be.
Dang. All right, so the unvaccinated, that population grows. And then the superbugs release, wipes them out. I'm in. I'm with the scenario.
And then you sit on the final throne.
Okay. Riding that train.
Okay,
Okay.
Personally, I love going to the doctor and getting shots because I have very large veins.
Do you?
They can always find them. It's right there. You see it? That's
Man,
big.
I've always had trouble. I've got little arms, and they have trouble. I have to get poked a few times.
I think it's one of the few places where I get complimented.
Do they? I think they use. I think they use your veins for drawing blood, not necessarily giving you a shot.
Well, that's another point of this podcast is like, do you guys still get flu shots? Because I don't, and I think I've stopped since it was my decision. Like after I'd say 19 or 20, I don't think I've gotten a flu shot since then.
You are the problem, dude.
Yeah, I'm part
Wait a
of it.
minute, am I an anti-vaxxer because I don't get a flu shot?
I don't typically get a flu shot either, but I know I need to start doing it now that we have a kid. Like,
Right.
I guess that's true. I didn't think about that. I mean,
because you can
I get
carry the flu virus, but not actually have any symptoms.
Right.
So you could transfer it onto your kid and not,
I also don't ever get sick really.
Well,
Like,
why don't you get the flu shot?
I think it's a hassle. It's too much time.
I thought you liked needles.
Yeah.
I do, but I don't like the flu shot. Actually, it kind of hurts.
In your arm. The place where I used to work, they'd come by and give it to you for free. Shoot, they make it so easy. You can go to Walgreens, just get popped.
Sure. Well, here's
Yeah.
a question for you guys. Like, because I get the flu shot, maybe like if it's popular that year, if they have something they're giving away that I really want, I'll go get a flu shot, and then I won't get one for like 3 years, and then next time it'll be like maybe 5 years later.
Yeah, they're giving away immunity to the flu for that year.
Oh no, I was thinking like some cupcakes, or they're showing a cool movie
you
or
need
something.
incentive
Yeah,
to get a flu shot? Okay. All right.
I do. I want like a mini Titans helmet. Like that's what they're giving away for flu shots this year.
Oh, gosh.
Wait a minute. Am I getting flu shots confused
I
with
hope.
donating blood?
Maybe. Maybe.
I think that's it.
I think you are.
I hope it's one of those off years for you when they release the superbug.
Oh. So you want me to be, one of the first ones wiped out?
Yeah.
Then this podcast wouldn't exist, and I wouldn't get to see your smiling face.
I have a theory. So, and I just developed it.
Great.
So the CDC, the Center for Disease and Control, has a very strong emphasis and warning about not vaccination. Vaccinating your kids or getting vaccinated, and it couldn't be more blunt. And I suggest people check it out at their website,
Sure.
cdc.gov. Something else the CDC has on their website, or used to at least, was what to do in case of a zombie outbreak. Do you think?
I don't believe that.
So I think for the unvaccinated, all right, they know that this is going to grow and people are not going to get vaccinated. And so that population will grow. The vaccinated will dwindle. They'll release the superbug, aka zombies. And then it's the apocalypse.
Ooh, plot twist. They've been putting something in the vaccines for years, so when they release the superbug, everybody that's been vaccinated becomes the zombie. Everybody that hasn't is the survivor.
Oh man.
Man, that's what the anti-vaxxer
We
wants you
fucked
to
up,
think,
man. We
Doug.
fucked up.
That's what they want you to think, man.
So that is their theory.
That's what they want you to think.
We're all gonna die.
So anyway, I don't know. Like I said, if you don't vaccinate your kid, I guess you have that right, It just doesn't make, with the evidence out there that it's not causing harm, it just doesn't make sense.
Vaccinate your children. Don't be dumb.
Talk to your pediatrician. Again, I think pediatricians, your doctors, who this is their job, they will 100% tell you, yeah, dude, get your kid vaccinated. I have the vaccine in the other room. Let's do it right now.
Don't push it on me
Yeah.
that quick. I'm still making this decision.
And-
that sounds like a used car salesman. Hey, I've got the keys inside right now. Well, you can just drive off the lot.
What's it
with
going
this
to take to
thing.
get you in this vaccine?
Do you think vaccination is big business? I mean, you think they're charging
I think
a
it
lot for
is.
it?
I think
No, they're practically giving it away, dude.
you don't have to charge that. You have to charge something for it, but you multiply that by 1 billion people, and you're making some money there.
Well, sure, I guess. But I mean, I don't think it's like people riding. These doctors are like buying yachts off these vaccinations.
Right, yeah.
Suckers.
No.
God, yeah, vaccinated 15 more kids today, man. Gonna get me a Rolls Royce.
I don't think it's a case by case. I don't think it's every time you get one, you get like 50 cents
Pop,
for a vaccination.
$1,500 vaccination, dude. Pop, just printing money. No, I think you talk to these doctors, man. Talk to your pediatrician, talk to your doctor, and I think they're going to guide you in the right way.
Yeah, and I mean, because there are some cases where they might recommend that you don't get vaccines now, or you know, because if your kid has a weakened immune system, or if there's something else up with them, they're not going to recommend you get a vaccine if it's going to harm your kid.
Sure, yeah,
I would assume most doctors. You know, I'm sure there's some crappy doctors out there, but
and we're just an extension of them, telling you to get your children vaccinated.
An extension of
an expert.
Mm-hmm, of an expert.
Because we've been vaccinated. We've vaccinated our children. And by my theory of previous podcasts, that makes you an expert.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah, nothing's happened to us.
I listened to a song the other day. I'm a musician.
That's not how it works.
When's your first album coming out?
Yeah.
It's already out. It's
what's it called?
Bad Champagne.
By who? Is it Old Boy? You're just going to go by Old Boy?
I guess for this one.
The first album, Old Boy.
Actually,
Bad Champagne.
or it's a heavy metal album, and the group's name is Mother Dick.
Oh,
sweet.
That's not bad.
So look out for that.
Yeah, that's coming at you soon.
Be on what, Spotify or something, or
Yeah, Pandora. We got our own Pandora station too.
Well, we hope you enjoyed another episode of Raising Nashville. Again, what we want to do is to have you guys send us topics to discuss. We have a list of them. We look at them all the time, but we always entertain new ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it'd be really exciting to get some ideas from our listenership on what we should discuss and cover. It'd be nice and fresh. We'll give shout outs.
Yeah.
you could possibly get a shout out.
Yes, that's a big deal. Well, follow us on your social medias, the internet. It's Raising Nashville Podcast. You can find it
on the internet.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I guess so.
That's it.
Do you have more stuff? Okay.
I'm going to go get a shot, you guys. What are y'all going to do?
I am not going to do that.
I wish there was a vaccine against work.
We hope you guys enjoyed listening. If you don't have children,
Have one.
Catch
up.
Yeah, we want you to know what we go through.
Yeah, the fear.
As a father with a brand new baby, wanna do what's right, nothing crazy. Try to get him sleeping on his back in the crib, get a car seat and strap him in. Now some people on Oprah and the internets can have opinions that cause me to fret. They say vaccines are dangerous, sounds outrageous, but I want it just the same. Should I listen to my doctor or heed the invective of a playboy bunny and a pet detective? Toxins are bad, except in the case when you like to stick a deadly one in your face. In 55, this fella Jonas Salk cured polio and how the mothers talked. Hallelujah, no more iron lungs. It's safe to go back to the summer sun. Now 50 years later, new talking dish. There was a nasty little rumor about the vaccine's effects. So fewer kids got it, don't you know? More needless suffering from polio.